After a frustrating Friday at Le Mans, Fabio Quartararo delivered one of his strongest sprint performances of the 2026 MotoGP season on Saturday, producing a remarkable turnaround that reignited optimism inside the Yamaha garage. The factory Yamaha rider looked completely transformed compared to the opening day of the French Grand Prix weekend. Quartararo topped Saturday morning's FP2 session before securing 6th place in qualifying, an important recovery after failing to advance directly into Q2 on Friday. In the 13-lap sprint race later that afternoon, the 2021 MotoGP world champion immediately showed aggressive intent. A strong launch allowed him to climb into 4th place on the opening lap, briefly putting Yamaha in contention against Ducati and KTM machinery that has generally enjoyed a clear pace advantage throughout the season. Although Pedro Acosta eventually passed him on lap 4, Quartararo resisted intense pressure from riders behind and managed to hold 5th position until the checkered flag. For Yamaha, it was more than just a respectable result. It felt like proof that progress, however limited, is finally beginning to appear. Speaking after the race, Quartararo admitted the improvement came from simplifying Yamaha's direction and returning to a setup package that had already shown promise earlier in the year at Jerez. "I gave my maximum on every lap," Quartararo explained. "We already knew our race pace was quite strong because I felt comfortable since the morning, but racing is always different when you have so many bikes around you. The first lap was amazing, we got a good result, and I'm really happy with how we turned a disappointing Friday into a much better Saturday." The Frenchman also delivered one of his clearest public messages yet regarding Yamaha's technical situation. After months of experimenting with different solutions, Quartararo now believes the M1's fundamental balance is no longer the main issue. Instead, he insists Yamaha urgently needs genuine performance upgrades rather than endless changes to the base setup. According to Quartararo, Friday's struggles were partly caused by trying too many different ideas in search of lap time that simply was not there. "Yesterday I made a big mistake in turn 9 and lost 2/10 because of it," he said. "But what I learned is that the problem is no longer about the setup. We have already tried everything, even twice. Now what we need are new components that can really add performance." Those comments underline the growing pressure inside Yamaha's MotoGP project. Despite visible improvements in handling and rider confidence, the Japanese manufacturer still lacks straight-line speed compared to Ducati and KTM. Quartararo revealed that Yamaha remains around 10 km per hour, slower in qualifying trim, despite continuing to use essentially the same engine specification from the beginning of the season. "Look at the top speed data and you understand more," he explained. "In qualifying, we are still losing around 10 km per hour, and that is with the same engine we started the season with. So we have not improved anything there." Even so, the feeling from the front of the bike has changed dramatically. And for Quartararo, that is perhaps the most important development of all. For years, the Yamaha rider has relied heavily on front-end confidence to maximize corner speed and braking performance. When that feeling disappears, his riding style becomes far less effective. At Le Mans on Saturday, however, he finally rediscovered sensations he had been missing for most of the campaign. "This feeling is something I had not experienced all season," Quartararo admitted. "I felt it in Jerez, but not on Friday here in Le Mans, so we decided to go back to the Jerez setup, and immediately it worked." That decision appears to have transformed Yamaha's competitiveness over a single day. Quartararo said the updated aerodynamic package also played an important role, even if the improvement is not necessarily visible in lap time alone. Other Yamaha riders may not feel the difference as strongly, but Quartararo believes the revised aero package significantly improves the feedback from the front of the M1, a critical factor for a rider whose confidence depends heavily on braking stability and corner entry feel. "It's not about more performance," he explained. "It's about the feedback the bike gives me." That distinction could become crucial for Yamaha's future development direction. Rather than chasing radical experiments every weekend, the team may now focus on refining a stable base package while waiting for long-promised engine upgrades and new technical components. The result also arrives at an important moment psychologically for Quartararo. After several difficult weekends and visible frustration earlier in the season, a competitive sprint at Le Mans, in front of his home crowd, offered a reminder of why Yamaha continues to build its project around him. While fifth place alone will not change the championship picture, the atmosphere inside the garage appears noticeably calmer. More importantly, Quartararo once again looked capable of fighting aggressively against riders on technically superior machines. If Yamaha can finally combine this improved front-end feeling with meaningful engine development later in the season, Le Mans may eventually be remembered as the weekend where the project finally found a clear direction again. Beyond the immediate result, Quartararo's performance also highlighted how much confidence influences modern MotoGP riding. Throughout the early rounds of the season, the Yamaha rider often appeared tense on corner entry, unable to attack the braking zones with his usual aggression. At Le Mans on Saturday, however, his body language on the bike looked completely different. He was braking later, carrying more corner speed and committing to overtakes in situations where he previously seemed cautious. Inside the Yamaha garage, that change was impossible to ignore. Engineers and mechanics celebrated the sprint result with unusual energy, fully aware that morale inside the project had been under pressure for months. Yamaha's technical staff have continued working intensively behind the scenes, but repeated setbacks and a lack of visible progress had created frustration on both sides of the garage. Quartararo's comments after the race also carried a subtle warning for Yamaha management. While he praised the improvements in feel and handling, he made it clear that rider adaptation alone cannot continue masking the bike's weaknesses forever. In today's MotoGP era, where Ducati and KTM continue introducing aggressive development packages, standing still technically can quickly become disastrous. The contrast between Yamaha's cornering strength and its speed deficit remained obvious throughout the sprint. Quartararo was consistently able to regain time through flowing sectors and heavy braking areas, but every time the riders reached long acceleration zones, the limitations of the M1 became visible again. Rivals were often able to close the gap simply through superior horsepower and acceleration.